everyone always feels bad for me. Like, they're always like, oh, that sucks. Like, oh, you didn't get to do Halloween. You didn't get to trick or treat. Like,
Well, I think the reason why they always feel bad for you is because there are certain things about childhood that are just so magical. And it's that belief in all of that stuff and the experience when you have those beliefs in those things that makes them so spectacular, you know? Okay. Welcome back to the pod. This is the third episode in the Halloween series of Walking the Fine Line podcast.
I wish we had a theme song.
No.
No. Well, no.
Anyways, so we're going to continue down the Halloween train because, of course, you can't not do a Halloween episode for all of your episodes during Halloween season. It doesn't work that way.
No, that would be weird if we were like, let's talk about normal things instead of Halloween during October.
Yeah. We've talked about things we're afraid of. We've talked about Halloween movies, our favorites. And now we have to talk about Halloween parties. So I'm probably going to talk a little bit more about this than Emily because she will tell you all about her experience not really having Halloween parties growing up. But the Halloween things that I did most years as a kid was I went to a party at my friend's house, and she always had a theme. Like, one year was everybody has dressed as, like, a character from Narnia, or one year was, like, just space. One year was Alice in Wonderland. Like, she did that thing.
I do have a question about that. Like, space? Like, the theme was space.
Yeah. She was a galaxy, and I was an alien, and, you know... And somebody was like a Mars rover, like space.
Huh.
Yeah.
How old were you? I mean, that takes some, like, creative, like, thought process to put that kind of costume together.
11 or 12, maybe. Yeah.
Sounds entertaining.
I think the last one that I remember, like, us, like, doing, like, a full thing was the Alice in Wonderland one. I'm pretty sure we were in 8th or 9th grade.
Okay.
And then we didn't do it anymore. But yeah, so she would even have, like, food that fit the theme, but then of course she had, like, the normal Halloween-y things. Like, she'd have, like, witches' fingers and, like, eyeballs and, like, whatever. Out of whatever her mom was creative enough to make and stuff, so.
What do you make witches' fingers out of?
I mean, it depends.
Like hot dogs or, like...
It depends on if you're doing, like, a savory or sweet thing. Like, there's been, like, the pretzels dipped in, like, chocolate thing.
Oh.
So they're, like, green. And then there's, like, I've seen it be, like a really thin, like chicken leg bone type thing.
Okay.
Where they'll, like, use the bone and then, like, put other things on it. And then, like, there's been all types of stuff. I mean. Yeah, it was always really good and it was cool. And when we were younger, I think it was a lot cooler that she had all those things. When we were older, we were just like, cool, we need to eat all of it. I'm hungry.
That's funny.
And then the other thing we would do is, like, obviously, I mean, you get a lot of candy you don't want. Like, most people don't want to eat a Tootsie Roll. Like, they just don't. So, like, we would all go trick-or-treating, and then we'd come back to the house, and, like, we'd watch a movie, and then we'd sort our candy out, like, count all of it, and, like, sort it out the things that we don't like. And then sort how many things we had of each. So everything had its own pile. So then we'd, like, bargain with each other to, like, trade the things we don't like for something that we do like.
Like, I'll take this many of this, and you can have one of these, and...
Yeah, and then they would be like, okay, but you also have, like, 7 of these, so, like, if you give me one of those and that, then I'll give you this thing that's your favorite thing, or whatever, you know, it was like that.
That's cute.
Yeah, so we did that, and then, yeah, we'd play celebrity. And Emily didn't know what celebrity was, apparently.
I didn't.
Because she thought, oh, you pretend to be celebrities? Which, like, I feel like there are probably children that did that.
I mean, I did that as a kid.
Celebrity is... The way that I played celebrity is different than I think normal celebrity is played. but we did 3 rounds of basically famous enough to be a celebrity characters wise and actors. And we would, or just any celebrity generally. And we would do the first round where you could say basically anything except for the words on the card. And then the second round would be you could only say one word, and whatever word you chose can't be the word on the card. You had to say over and over again until they figured it out. And that's just what you're stuck with. And then the third round would be charades. So that's what we did.
I'd love to play that. Yeah, no, when she said it, I 100% was like, you mean like when I was a kid? Like, I mean like, like 7, 8, like, you dress up as your favorite celebrity and like pretend to be celebrities, or like you make up your own pop star name. Like my friends and I did that kind of stuff when we were little, but she did not mean that. I was very confused.
No, and my friends and I didn't even do stuff like that. But
my friends and I did.
Yeah.
I was really into dress up when I was a kid.
Yeah, and I just remember one particular one that we had was Rumpelstiltskin, and I remember it was the hardest one for us. We just couldn't do it, but we've had all types of people in that game. It's fun.
It sounds like it. So.
And then what about you?
I want to ask a question first before we go to me. So, what was like the last year that you trick-or-treated?
I'm not sure, but I think it was when I was either 13 or 14.
Okay. So, do you think that there is an age limit to trick-or-treating?
I don't think there should be, but I definitely think there is.
Like, how old did your friends, like, oh, we shouldn't trick-or-treat anymore, like, we're too old, or like...
So, I think my group of friends are a little different than, like, the other group of friends that I had, and also just other people in general, where I felt like, obviously, like, going to a party is what's cool in middle school and high school, which I thought it was a party. You just also trick-or-treat it. I think the thing is that, like, there's this, like, stigma against it, and I don't know if it's caused by adults or teens, really, but I mean, it's, it's even, like, a movie trope, like, you're too old to go trick-or-treating, that type of thing. So, like, I remember, like, as we got older, our friends and I were like, do we still look young, That was, like, our thing. Do we look young? Like, do we look like little kids? Which, truly, if you think about it, 13-year-olds look very small.
They really do.
They really do. But people just don't perceive children as children anymore. So, that's unfortunate. But
I feel like I remember... So, I had a little sister, and we took her trick-or-treating. And, I remember, like, I was a teenager at the time, and I didn't want to dress up. I think I, like, wore all black or something. Teenage years,
Yeah.
But, like, I remember there being conversations being had around me. Like, my mom and my stepdad and his friends and even, like, extended friends that happened to be around. Gotta love pre-COVID days, right? When, like, all these people would be around, you never even met them, and, like, you're all at this big house gathering. But, like, we all met up, and, like, they were getting ready to go. And there was some people... there, like, in our group that had teenagers that were my age or even older. So they were, like, 15, 16, 17 years old. And they still wanted to go trick-or-treating. They're like, why not? Like, I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom, like, being like, well, I mean, I guess it's better than other things they could be doing, right? They're not terrorizing anybody. They're not giving anybody a hard time. They're being polite. Like, they still want to be a kid and have fun. Like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. Well, and I don't understand what the issue is. Literally all they're doing is dressing up and going house to house and asking for candy. Like, and I don't know if it's like something where they feel like teenagers shouldn't be asking for free candy from adults. Yeah. But, like, it makes sense.
I remember
they're kids.
I remember one of my friend's parents said something like, because I think I had this I think I've had this conversation a couple of times in my life. And I feel like one of my friend's parents that I was close with in high school was like, once you're old enough that you have your own car and you can drive to the store and buy your own candy, you don't need to be trick-or-treating. And I was like, I mean, I get that, I guess. But at the same time, like, they're still holding on to that little piece of their youth and their innocence. And, like, what's so wrong with that? I just feel like there's this big,
get
like,
that obviously, like,
hypocrisy.
Candy is, like, the biggest part of trick-or-treating because you get candy.
Yeah.
But, like, at least in the neighborhood that like I went trick-or-treating in all the time, you know, we would lose our shit over the decorations of these houses,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like, how much did they have? Did they have the, like, animatronic things, which, like, I felt like back then seemed a little bit more like, whoa, you
Yeah.
know, than they do now. But, like, we would freak out over all these things and think they were so cool. And, like, that's kind of, I mean, yeah, thanks for the candy, but also, like, if we were just getting candy and walking up to these houses that weren't decorated, it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Like, people who, like, would just put the, like, basket of their candy out and not, like, answer the door. Like, we would get candy from those houses, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
You know?
I just think there's this big hypocrisy going on. And it's been going on for probably, in my opinion, from what I've seen, at least the past 10 years. If not, maybe 20 years.
Way before that.
Because I feel like it didn't used to be as
Yeah.
big of a conversation. Like, maybe when my uncles or, like, your aunt and uncles were growing up, it wasn't as big of a conversation. But people get upset about the idea of these teenagers who are 14, 15, 16 going and partying.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also going to get upset about them going door to door trick-or-treating with the other kids. And it's like, which would you rather them do? Like, you can't, what do you expect them to do? Like, yeah, they probably could, like, just hang out with their friends at someone's house and, like, eat candy and watch movies. Like, that's probably the only middle ground you have as an option. But, like, you're going to get angry at these kids for drinking underage and partying in these big groups of kids. But you're going to get mad at them for trying to hold on to their innocence, too. Like, which would you rather have? Like...
Yeah, the holiday, when it comes to Halloween as a holiday, it doesn't cater towards teenagers or young adults really at all. Because what's made for them for fun, it specifically is parties. Like, it's not like trick-or-treating is for kids, you know? And even, like, haunted houses, not all, but some, have age restrictions, you know? I mean, there were definitely some in Colorado that I remember as a kid were like, oh, well... You need to be this age to go, you know?
No, the ones around here also, they have...
So, especially, like, I think there's some that were 18 plus because they, like, touch them and things, which those are probably not a thing now, but, so what do they do?
Yeah, what do you want the kids to do?
Nothing, apparently.
Yeah.
And then you have some unfestive teenage brats, because everybody hates teenagers, and then you don't let them celebrate, so they're just like, you.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing to bring up, just because, like, we're putting teenagers between a rock and a hard place, because there's nothing really appropriate, I'm putting air quotes here, appropriate for them to be doing, except for staying at home, maybe in groups, but, like, who wants to do that? Like, it's a big holiday. They want to go out.
That's so sad. And I do remember, like, being, like, the last year that I remember going, like, a teenager with my phone, you know? And it was really popular. Like, at that time, there was, like, a ringtone that was, like, ring, 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 and then they would scream. Yeah. And I remember, like, us, like, putting them in our pockets and stuff and, like, scaring people with the noise. Because you wouldn't know where it was coming from. So I do understand why people hate teenagers.
I mean, like, if the kids are doing stuff where, like, they're scaring the little kids, or they're being rude, or they're trashing things, like, totally inappropriate.
That's understandable, but if they're just messing with each other, like, I don't really think.
And they're not being impolite, and they're not hurting any little kids, and, like, you know, they're not doing anything. Yeah. All they want is go get some candy, like, or look at the cool decorations, or just be allowed to hang out with their friends without parents over their shoulder.
Yeah. Fair.
I don't know. I thought it was an interesting point to bring up. Like, let's give the kids something to do, you know? Like...
We really should. Just let them trick-or-treat. I wouldn't care if a teenager came to my door trick-or-treating. I'd be like,
yeah, I wouldn't either. Like, I mean...
It's the same concept as a young adult trick-or-treating with their small child. That, you know, the children that are too young to really give a about trick-or-treating. Yeah. Like, that's absolutely for the adult. That's not for the child. Yeah, it's the
same thing. And we're not going to get mad at them because they have a kid on their hip. Like...
Yeah, it's their first one that they won't remember or care about.
No, and they can't eat the candy, and they're not going to stay up late, and they're not going to...
Yeah, like, I think my grandma and my grandpa used to say shit like that up to my mom about, like, traveling cool places. My mom would be like, oh, I want to go there so bad, and then my grandpa would be like, oh, you've been there. And she was like, yeah, when I was 1, and I don't remember, so it doesn't count. Like... So, Emily, do you want to talk a little bit about your Halloween experience?
Yes, I love Halloween. Um, but as I've mentioned, I think I've mentioned it now in a few episodes, and I think we decided today would be like a good day to just go ahead and like let's talk about it, because I've mentioned it a few times, and I know a lot of people don't know enough to like understand where I'm coming from. So as I mentioned in the last episode, and I think maybe a couple episodes ago, I was a Jehovah's Witness when I was a kid. So like up until I was maybe, I think 6, maybe 7 max. And even after that, even after we left, my family still didn't celebrate holidays until I was about 14 or 15. I think my first Christmas I was 14. And I think my first Halloween might have been the same year, where I ended up taking my little sister trick-or-treating, my stepsister trick-or-treating. So that meant that, like, we didn't celebrate Halloween, Christmas, Easter, any holiday you can think of. And it was... I think the bigger holidays, like, were a little bit more difficult. And my friends never understood, like, you know what I mean? Like, my friends would, like, want me to come, or, like, they'd want me to do things with them, and I just couldn't participate because that's just not what our religion allowed. That's not what my family believed in. And it was, like, my mom's family, so all my mom's family. Well, most of them, like, my immediate family. So that meant, like, I don't even know. Like, it's hard to explain, because I know a lot of people, like, when I've talked about it, even to, like, my dad's family who didn't join, they weren't Jehovah's Witnesses they didn't ever understand why my mom and my dad decided that was the right move for our family. But, everyone always feels bad for me. Like, they're always like, oh, that sucks. Like, oh, you didn't get to do Halloween, you didn't get to trick-or-treat, like...
Well, I think the reason why they always feel bad for you is because there are certain things about childhood that are just so magical. Yeah. And it's that belief in all of that stuff and the experience when you have those beliefs in those things that makes them so spectacular.
I totally get that. And, you know, I can understand that, like, I'm missing that. And I noticed it a lot, especially around, specifically Christmas, not so much Halloween. Because I don't have that, like, nostalgia holding me to the holiday. Like, you know, everyone has, like, those good fond memories, or, like, they have that, like, soft spot for a holiday or for a tradition. And because we didn't celebrate, we didn't have traditions, we didn't have things to do, we treated Halloween like it was any other day. Like, we literally did nothing. Like, it was...
Sucks.
It was just any other day.
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't a bad thing. Like, I wasn't... Just because we didn't do things didn't mean we weren't still celebrating life in our own way. So, like, my mom and dad did their best to try to, like, compensate, kind of. We did, like, lots of vacations or trips. If it was a holiday, like, I don't know, Easter or Halloween, or one of the ones where it's not, like, the whole world closes down, we would, like, maybe go out to dinner, or, like, my mom and dad would let us, like, pick out a movie, and we'd, like, hang out and, like, have family time. So we were still, like, celebrating life. We just weren't celebrating the holiday, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense. But, I don't want people to feel bad for me. Like, that always bothers me, because, like, we still had a good time. Like, honestly, I really didn't care. I didn't even mind it. Like, when you grow up not celebrating something, you don't know that you're missing anything, because you're not missing anything. You've never learned what it is or what it's like, or it did create...
And I don't think people feel bad for you in the sense that they're like, oh,
yeah,
like,
they're more like,
you, like,
oh,
whatever.
like,
as more as just, like, themselves imagining missing that part.
But, like, when you've never had it, then you never miss it,
so
it's not that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there are holidays that I think, like, I don't think I would have cared if I missed or not. But I think something like Halloween, it's like they only really allow you to experience it a certain way when you're a kid. So, like, that one, I feel like I'd be hurt if I wasn't able to experience that as a kid. But, like, Christmas and stuff, I mean, it's the same regardless of your age, minus the fact that little kids believe in Santa.
Yeah, I never had that. I didn't believe in Santa. My parents, from a young age, my parents were very clear with me about, like, Santa doesn't exist. You know, Halloween is not... And magic and Halloween and those things, they kind of represent the devil. They kind of represent, like, evil or Satan, or, you know, they kind of represent, like, the negative...
In Jehovah's Witness.
In their terms. It's and
I think that's also a Christianity thing, because I've heard a few YouTubers who grew up Christian say stuff like that also.
that holiday was like the worst one. Like, so we very much were removed from it completely. And that like went even down to, I was telling Milan when we were prepping for this episode, it went all the way down to like school. Like, you know, you do things at school for Halloween, right? Like, I don't know exactly what you do, but like I remember kids getting ready for a parade and like putting on costumes and those types of things.
Yeah.
And I didn't celebrate those. I didn't participate. My mom would pick me up from school and we'd like go have lunch and go shopping, and like I didn't think I was missing anything.
Yeah.
I thought I was getting out of it good.
Yeah, it's just like in classes, how like individual classes during those times would have like Christmas parties.
So
and Halloween
anytime we
parties
had one of those, my mom would just pick me up and we'd go have lunch and we'd go shopping, and I thought I was getting the good end of it. I got to get out of school early and go shopping. Like,
yeah, and I think a lot of I do remember a lot of kids being taken out of those things. I mean, it's
didn't.
just like
I was the only one at my school when I was growing up. I was the only.
Oh, I feel like I had a lot at my school, but also I had a lot of different cultures at my school. So then we also had like the kids who like would not do the Pledge of Allegiance when that was still a thing that was required in
Jehovah's
school.
Jehovah's Witnesses. So they basically what they're doing is like. Honestly, I think I was lucky. I ended up at one of the Kingdom Halls where there wasn't a lot of ill will, where nobody was being mistreated. I know there's a lot of information in the news. There's a lot of documentaries out there right now that are still coming out about the just horrors of some of the treatment of the people who are part of that religion, right? And my family and I lucked out. Like, we ended up at one where people were so nice, and I don't remember there being anything negative or any drama really being withheld. There was a few things, but it was nothing like you see on the documentaries. But what I'm about to say next kind of sounds cultish, which is why I wanted to like preempt it a little bit. I have nothing against anyone that I went to church with, air quotes there, that I went, there was nothing wrong with what was going on, but they essentially want you to keep yourself away from the worldly people. Like, that's what they call, like, everyone who isn't one of them is the worldly people, right? And so participating in events like that, participating in supporting the Pledge of Allegiance, that's pledging your allegiance to a country, and we weren't supposed to do that. We were supposed to pledge our allegiance, to the religion. Like, that was, you're not, it's a weird thing looking back. I really, like, I don't understand fully everything, but I understand enough to know that I'm...
Yeah, see, that's intense. The people that I know that didn't participate in the Pledge of Allegiance, it was because it was under a Christian God, and they just
you're pledging your allegiance to, like, the country, too, like, when you say that, And, like, we weren't supposed to do that. Like, but it went so far as, like, it sounds dramatic, but, like, it went so far as, like, you're not supposed to, because of passages in the Bible, you're not supposed to, like, get blood transfusions. You're not supposed to, like, just a bunch of stuff, and it's just crazy looking back at, like, what my life looked like when I was a kid, and I didn't even understand that it was different than everybody else. But, like, the most common thing I noticed was holidays, because that's... Listen to my grandma's dog bark. Because that's what was apparent to me as a child, is, oh, I'm not participating like my friends. Oh, I'm not going to parties with my friends. Oh, I'm not... Because I did have friends at school. I didn't have a ton. I was very different, obviously. I didn't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. I didn't go to the holiday parties. I didn't participate in any of the activities leading up to those holidays either. Like, if we had, for instance, like a worksheet that was about Christmas, my teachers had to find something else for me to do. Because I was a good kid. I didn't spoil the Santa thing to anybody. I didn't, like, ruin anybody's life about it. But I definitely remember, like, the kids seeing me as being different than them. For a million reasons, because I had a lot going on when I was a kid, but specifically because of that. But, like, the first time I remember, like, feeling like I was missing out, because I never really did, but the first time I remember feeling kind of like I was missing out was, I think it was, like, 5th grade. And fifth grade's, like, one of the last years you do holiday stuff at school, like, that you, like, do, like, the Halloween party and stuff before you go to middle school here. And all the kids were getting ready for the Halloween parade they were going to do outside before lunch. And one of my friends, that was the era of Hannah Montana and all that fun stuff. So my friend was dressing up as Hannah Montana, and I had makeup experience because I did dance growing up. That's one of the things I did get to do. And she said, hey, like, can you help me with my makeup? And I was like, yeah. So I, like, brought in some makeup, and I, like, helped her do her makeup for this Hannah Montana costume before she went to lunch. And I remember feeling, like, sad. Like, I was, like, sitting on the desk, and I was, like, doing her makeup. And I was, like, it almost forces you to like grow up faster, you know? Like there was like that piece of like melancholy, like,
Yeah.
oh, all my friends still do this, but it almost feels childish, and to me it feels weird because it's melancholy. Like I never had that. I never had that piece of like childish innocence that like dress up like a character, you believe in Santa, like that was never a thing.
Yeah.
So it almost makes you feel older or more mature than your friends, which puts a divide between you. Like, because I never believed in those things, I was always viewed as being like very serious and more mature, which to adults seems like a good thing, but to other kids puts you at like a different level.
Well, and I think that's different now too. I don't think a lot of adults, at least the people who are becoming
Yeah.
adults now, agree with that anymore. You know?
Yeah. Actually, to get on a lighter note, so that was my childhood, right? Fun stuff. So my parents left,
Yeah.
but we still continued to like not participate. Just it was more of a comfort thing at that point. Like I don't really have experience doing those things. I'm uncomfortable doing those things. So we still didn't participate even though we weren't going anymore to the Kingdom Hall. So
Yeah.
when my parents divorced, that kind of changed though. So my parents divorced when I was like 14, and
Oh, we should also say this extended to birthdays.
no, it included birthdays. So, yeah, I didn't even think about that. I'm so used to... I didn't celebrate birthdays either when I was a kid. My own or other people's. I didn't celebrate Mother's Day, Father's Day, Grandparents' Day. I didn't celebrate any holiday you can think of that you can buy a card for at the store. We didn't believe in and we didn't participate in. We still would do, like, I love you days is what my family did. So we still, like, got each other gifts and stuff. It just... I think the birthday, if I remember correctly, the birthday thing was about putting something about being idolized.
You're not supposed to put significance on yourself.
It's like idolizing when you're supposed to like put the significance on Jesus, essentially. I don't know. I was a kid. I'd need to read into that to fully explain it to you. But anyways, so yeah, that included birthdays, including our own, just generally. So when I was like 14, my parents divorced, and my dad decided that he wanted a Christmas tree in the house for the first time. That happened. I had a panic attack about it, by the way. I like showed up at our house and there was a huge Christmas tree in the living room, and I'd never had one. Like I'd seen them. My dad's family still celebrated all the holidays, so like I was still exposed to holidays. I wasn't used to it being in my own house, you know. But at the same time that year, I started talking to some of my friends. I started making friends in high school, and my friends, again, were shocked that I had never participated. They were very confused, and unfortunately, because I was so removed from some of it, I didn't understand things. Like me asking Milan, like, well, what did you guys eat at those parties? Like, what did you do? Like, because I never went, so I don't know, you know? So after my friends kind of realized I hadn't really been involved, and I got close with that group, and they, like, got to know me better. They were like, you need to go trick-or-treating once before, like, you're too old. So I think it ended up being, I think I was either 16 or 17. I was old enough to drive, for sure, because I drove to go to my friend's house to go trick-or-treating. But she had, one of my friends in the group had a little sister who was, I think, still, like, 13 or 14, and she had a friend who was also, like...
Which would have still been considered kind of.
And then she had a friend that was 12 or 13, but they were both... Actually, those girls went to my dance studio, too, and they looked very small for their age because they were dancers, right? So we took them with us as, like, a guy so that nobody would give us any crap about going trick-or-treating. And I, like, called my dad's mom, and I was like, hey, like, I need a costume, like... I have this thing I wanted to be Pebbles, like teenage Pebbles from the Flintstones. Like, I love that character. And I was like, hey, like, I really want to be this. Like, can you help me? And she, like, went to the store with me. And we picked out fabric. And she sewed me a costume. And I went out with them. And it was raining, by the way. It was raining. And there was snow on the ground that year because I lived in Michigan. And it was the most terrible experience ever, by the way. Like, first time trick-or-treating, and I was like, what are we... It's like, embarrassing at that point, because you're right, you are old enough at that point that, like, it's uncomfortable. And there was a couple houses that said something about us being older, but they were like, they didn't care, because there wasn't really a lot of kids trick-or-treating, because it was so cold out that year.
Yeah, well, and if you live anywhere that snows, like, Halloween, trick-or-treating isn't actually that fun, because your costume either gets wet, or you have to wear tights underneath it and wear gloves and wear a hat and wear a big coat over it. So it, like, defeats the purpose.
Yeah, no, I was wearing, like, leggings and some Ugg boots and some, I think I had a long sleeve t-shirt underneath my little dress that my grandma made me. But it was just, and it gets dark so early here, too. So it was a weird experience, because, like, I kind of enjoyed it at first, and then I was like, I feel kind of uncomfortable and awkward. Like, I don't even understand how little kids feel, like, have that confidence to, like, walk up to a stranger's door and be like, give me candy. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Because they know that that adults like little kids, so they're going to give them candy.
I don't know. It was a weird experience overall. Like, I'm glad I did it, so I can say I did it once, but I only did it the one time. And at one of the last houses we ended up going to, the lady said something, and she seemed a little harsh about it, about the fact that we were older. And one of the girls finally just went, well, our friend's never been trick-or-treating before, and she's just about too old to ever do it, because she, like, grew up and they didn't celebrate Halloween when she grew up. So, like, we wanted to make sure she experienced it once. Like, she got real sassy and, like, told off this lady. And the lady was, like, she felt bad after that. And the lady was like, oh, my God, like, that's so sweet of you guys. Like, help your friend and, like, you know, like, show your friend what it's like. And she goes, it's fine. Your girls are fine. Like, I'm glad you guys are doing this for her. And I was like, no, I'm really uncomfortable. Please don't look at me. Like, it was so awkward.
Nothing is more uncomfortable than when you say trick or treat and then the person says that you didn't say it with enough gumption. Really? And then you have to say it again.
I don't know. Anyways, that day was okay. I had an okay time, but that was like my only experience trick or treating. Except for, I mean, I was a little bit younger than that when my stepsister would go, but I didn't really participate. I still felt really uncomfortable with the idea of it. And I mean, as I've gotten older, I've grown further away and I've forgotten, you know, the things that I was taught as a child, the things that were told to me. Because the thing is when they're telling you these things about why it's wrong and you're little, you don't understand that there's another perspective. When it's something you grow up in, like, even though I left when I was little, like, those ideas were still there. And that, like, feeling of it being wrong and I was going to get in trouble for it was still there. You know what I mean? Because the thing is that, like, if you do go against their rules and you decide to do something, they can kick you out. They'll shun you, essentially. Like, you're not allowed to talk to anybody. They'll stop talking to you. Everyone will be banned from talking to you at all. They will pretend you don't exist.
Yeah.
And, like, I remember being taught that when I was a kid, and I was like, so if I do anything that's wrong, like, not only will I, like, the kiddie version of, like, being scared the world's gonna end and, like, you're gonna die and, like, you might not ever come back. And then on top of that, you're being told, also, we would get kicked out and, like, you know, all these things. And, like, my parents didn't pose it to me like that. They explained it to me in, like, this is why we do it, this is why it's wrong, this is why the Bible tells us not to. But, like, you're still hearing all those other things when you're there. You're hearing all those other people talk. And you're going, okay, like, that's wrong. And so, like, when you grow up with that gut feeling and then you get older and you're told you're fine and you can do it, you're like, wait, like, I understand I was a child, but, like, that gut, like, no is still there, you know? Like, it got to the point where, like, I never stood for the Pledge of Allegiance. We stopped going when I was 6 or 7. You go to school till you're 18, right? So for those 11 or 12 years, I never said the Pledge of Allegiance at school. I was so uncomfortable with the idea of doing it.
I don't think they did anymore, did they?
They did it every single day the entire time I went to school.
Oof. I think the last year we did it was, like, 2nd or 3rd grade.
Yeah, they did it every single day. They obviously still do it at, like, football games and stuff, and as far as I know, they still do it almost every day.
That's not allowed in Denver public schools, at least. Maybe it is.
I'm from small town Michigan, so it's a little different out here. But yeah, like, it got to the point where, like, I don't know, I'm not upset about it. Like, none of it bothers me. I think it's just more, as the years have gone on, I get more and more tired of explaining it, I think. Because I have been asked so many questions for so long, or if I admit to somebody, one of our new friends, or, like, you've heard me a number of times, like, when I've met somebody new, and then they say something about, you know, their childhood, or they ask me a question, and I have to go, I never did it, so I don't know. Like, you know, it's something I'm going to have to explain.
But then you turn around and ask me the most random questions.
I do. This is a great segue. Because I was never involved, right? I always am like, what was that like? That looks cool. Like, I watch the movies like Halloween Town, or, like, you know, I watch all these movies I started watching when I was about 14. And I get so excited about the idea of it because I'm like, I've never done that. That looks like fun, like bobbing for apples. I bet it's terrible. Like you're submerging your head in
awful.
water, right?
You're submerging your head in water that everybody else's heads have been in, and bobbing for apples
That's
that somebody
gross.
else has maybe
That's gross.
bit
But the idea
but
of it
couldn't
sounds
get.
cool. But it still sounds cool. You get me? Like, it still sounds like fun.
Yeah.
And, like, the carving pumpkins thing. I carved a pumpkin for the first time when I was maybe 14 or 15.
I think that's fun
And
artistically, for sure.
actually, the first time I did it, I was like, why do people do this? This is really exhausting, and I really don't want to do this. The best part of it was I made pumpkin seeds afterwards, because I do like pumpkin seeds. But I was like, why do people do this? I don't understand.
I mean, jack-o'-lanterns have a purpose, but...
Well, I understand, like, culturally, traditionally, they have a purpose, but still, like... I sat there and I was like, this is so much work. So much work and such little reward. Why are we doing this? I also, just really intrigued by, like, the type of games you would play at a party like that.
Yeah, well, I
Like,
mean,
what kind of games
Celebrity
do you
is not
play
a
at a
typical
Halloween
Halloween game, but, I mean, that's what...
But what are typical Halloween games?
I mean, Halloween games are doing things like bobbing for apples and stuff like that, and there's, like, a Halloweenish version of, like, pinning the tail on the donkey. I mean...
There is?
Yeah. I mean, there's
What
one
do you
for
pin?
pretty much every single thing that you can think of. There's one for bachelorette parties, and you know. There's
Well,
yeah.
I've been to one of those parties.
There's
real awkward,
there's all
let me tell
types
you.
of stuff like that. But I mean, it's all these like group activity games. Like if you've ever been to like you've seen in movies like when they do like the school things, they'll have like that like whatever it's called where you like throw the thing and then like people fall in the water and like that all that type of it's like carnival games basically, just fall carnival games. That's what's at most Halloween related parties.
I don't know, I just find that kind of stuff intriguing. I think just, like I said, because I've never done it, because I've never, like, even, unless it's a movie, I've never really even seen people do it.
Yeah.
It really, as far as, like, traditional Halloween activities, I'd have to say I don't really enjoy dressing up. Like, I have my Jason jersey on today, and I had my Freddy on last week, but
I love
other than that, I don't like,
Halloween.
I don't know if I like dressing up. It's a little overwhelming.
Oh yeah, it's stressful for sure. I didn't like it in college. I didn't really try it in college, but also we went to parties in college.
I dressed up in college.
Yeah.
I had the one costume in high school. Oh, I did also go, I forgot. I went to 2 parties in high school. As far as Halloween parties go. Went to 2. My mom at that point, like, really didn't care. Like, we were celebrating whenever we felt like celebrating. So if we didn't want to do it, she didn't make us do it.
Yeah.
So I didn't really celebrate much of anything. I did do Christmas with my family. But I did enjoy those 2 parties.
Yeah. So speaking of costumes.
Oh, yeah.
We have a whole section where we just talked about, like, our favorite costumes, our favorite costumes that our friends wore, favorite celebrity costumes. So, Emily, what were your favorite costumes that you have worn?
Mine are always less cool than yours. Like, when we've talked about it in the past, or, like, I talk about other friends, mine are just not as fun. Not as interesting. You know, my favorite costume probably is, honestly, we went to, like, the same parties over and over when we were in college, but when we went to one of the Halloween parties, I literally just wore, like, my Freddy sweater and, like, a pair of shorts and, like, some fishnets and some boots, like, some biker boots. Like, that's my favorite just because it was the most comfortable costume I've ever worn. Like, I had all these plans. Like, if I had, like, done the whole thing, I think I would have loved it the most. Like, because had all these plans to do, like, special effects makeup for it and everything. But I ran out of time, and I was running a film festival, so I didn't get to do it. Because it happened to be at the same weekend as Halloween was my film festival. Yay. I also really loved, Milan and I were vampires one year. I know she doesn't like that costume that much. But I loved it.
That's boring.
I like boring costumes. Yeah. But we were vampires, and we, like, got the teeth that, like, you mold to your tooth so they stay in place. At least they should have. Maybe we did it wrong. I don't know. Mine stayed in pretty well.
They didn't stay.
But Milan's didn't stay in.
One of mine stayed and the other one didn't.
Yeah, those are tricky.
And I mean, if you smile, they come out.
Really? Mine didn't come out when I smiled. But I liked that, and then I had molded some scars and some bite marks with my modeling clay and my special effects kit, so Loved that costume. It was a little risque, honestly. I had like a little bustier top on.
I feel like half of your Halloween costumes, I told you what to be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was... I was a...
Because I told you to be a vampire, and I told you what type of vampire. And I told you to be Mal.
Yeah, I was, if you haven't seen it, Descendants from Disney Channel. It's like the villain's kids. And I was like Maleficent's kid, Mal. And Milan like picked out my entire
Emily
costume.
used to be really into dyeing her hair crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, then dye your hair purple and be Mal.
Yeah. I've dyed my hair almost every color. Actually, I think I dyed my hair... I've dyed my hair 4 or 5 times for Halloween now. I haven't recently. I'm trying to let it be healthy. But... So yeah, I think those are my favorite. I really liked the Pebbles costume I talked about too, though, because that was also... It was just cute. Like, I think Teen Pebbles was super cute. And it was just a cute character. So those are my favorite.
Well, I mean, I loved a lot of the costumes, minus the ones in college. Honestly, they had no effort and they were stupid. Besides, like, my Reggie Rocket one in college was, like, the best, you know, planned out, like, you know.
That one was, like, perfect.
But, minus I don't have red Converse or red Vans, so, like, I just wore boots.
But outside of that, I thought it was, like, perfect.
Yeah. But then I think, like, the ones that, like, I liked the most when I was a kid were the ones that, like, besides, like, obviously the ones where you just bought the costume and wore the costume, were ones that, like, my mom and I would, like, kind of, like, mix and match and figure out what went with what. Was when the year that we did Narnia, I was Susan, and we, like, made the and it was, like, a high quality ass costume with, like, heavy, like, super heavy, like, velvet dress. Like, it was awesome. And then the other one was, I was my favorite character from Alice in Wonderland, which is the Mad Hatter. And it was funny because my friend actually also ended up being the Mad Hatter, and we don't tell each other what we're going to be. We just pick, and we come, and we show up. And everybody, and we also did, like, we do, like, say, like, whose costume is our favorite, too. But, like, we both ended up being the Mad Hatter, because we love the Mad Hatter. So that was fun. But, I mean, when I was a kid, I was Dorothy, shoes and all, as Pikachu. I used to love that Pikachu costume. Oh, my God. I mean, Jasmine, and so many things. But those two were the coolest to me because they were, like, high quality just clothes versus costumes.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then we have the section of what our friends
like
wore.
Our favorite costumes.
What do you have? Yeah.
One of our friends in college dressed up from Hey Arnold. What was that character's name? From Hey Arnold.
Oh, yeah, I forgot she did that.
I remember seeing that costume and thinking it was ingenious. Like,
she was Helga Pataki.
She did that really well. I really enjoyed her costume.
Yeah. And she had the necklace and everything. It was good.
I really liked that one.
She always had good costumes, though.
She did, and I think she did a couple's costume, too, at some point with her boyfriend that was really cute, but I'm forgetting what it was.
Did they?
I thought they did at
Did
some
they?
point. I could be wrong, but I was thinking they did do one.
I don't know. But since she brought up that costume of hers, I loved when she was Black Swan.
Yeah, I wasn't there that year, but I heard it was cool.
That was
I saw
awesome.
pictures of it.
Yeah, it was
You know,
really
I also,
good.
like, even though, okay, so this is, Milan thought it was kind of stupid, but one of our friends dressed up from the Lost Boys as David. I think it was David, right?
I think he was supposed to be David, yeah.
David. And, like, honestly, he didn't do the character justice, but if you would have just told me...
No, I mean, he did a fantastic job. Like, he fit the aesthetic perfectly. I don't even know if he specified that he was supposed to be David. At least he didn't to me. I know you had a more in-depth conversation about it, but I was just like, what are you supposed to be?
But he looked amazing. I was so shocked at, like, the effort he put into this. Usually our guy friends, like Milan said, didn't really put effort into their costumes, but, like, his costume, like, he had the trench coat and the earring and, like, the makeup, and I was like, God damn.
So many rings.
He
It
looks
was good.
Yeah.
It was good. I just, I don't pay terribly close attention to our guy friends. I was like,
well,
okay,
he made
hi.
it a point to talk to me about it because he was like, look what I did. And I was like, good job. He's like, it's Milan's favorite movie.
Like, Milan loves this. Yeah.
It was so funny.
Jeez.
Oh my god. I liked his costume a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good costume. And then, so we had a lot of friends that did, like, couples costumes, even if they weren't couples. But, like, there was a couple at the school who did, like, a purge thing. So they both, like, had, like, purge masks. I've literally, like, been scrolling through Pinterest and seen their costumes pop up on
So
Pinterest.
weird.
I've seen their Shining one pop up on Pinterest so many times. But, regardless, the Purge one I think was my favorite one that they did, and that's the first one that they did at the school. So I think that one was my favorite. And then there's also two of the people that went to school that did like a Pulp Fiction thing, and that was also really cool.
Their personalities were good for that.
Yeah, their personalities fit that very well.
I loved that.
Celebrities. What costumes have celebrities worn that you like?
You know, I had some. And I didn't write them down because I thought I was being cool, like, just could remember them and, like, be able to talk about them. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't have... I always, like, look online to see what other people are, and I feel like it's kind of crazy how much effort some of these celebrities put into their costumes. And, like, money.
I think, but see, that's my favorite thing about Halloween is, like, if you're gonna dress up, dress up.
I don't know, I'm sure you have quite a few. Who do you have on your list?
I don't think I, like, specifically can say, oh, like, this outfit, but there are celebrities who generally I care to see what they're going to be.
I do have one.
Which is...
I don't love her as a person. I think she's made questionable decisions. And I don't appreciate the way that she's treated some people. However, Emma Roberts, when she dressed up as her aunt, was classic.
I don't even remember that.
Emma Roberts dressed up as Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. Like the costume the outfit she's wearing at the beginning of the movie, and that costume was just cool to see it, and it's hitting on that nostalgia like meta thing you were talking about in the last episode, because it's her aunt. So I did like that costume.
Yeah, I think the celebrities that I'm most curious to see what they're going to wear, like number one is Ariana Grande, because she loves Halloween to the point where she'll wear 3 costumes a day, for like weeks.
She will though.
You know. And I remember for years I'd be like, come on, post it. What are you now? What are you now? And like some of them are just like chill, like, little things. But I'm always curious to see what she's going to wear because she loves the holiday so much. And then of course there are people like Heidi Klum and there's so many people who do like Colton Hayes does it too, like where they go above and beyond and do like these full like prosthetics, like being like Fiona and being like Mrs. Piggy and like all these Jessica Rabbit, doing like these intense crazy things. Those are fun to watch. So those are always interesting. Yeah. And then of course, I think most people are very curious to see what the Kardashians are going to wear because they have so much money to remake an outfit absolutely perfectly. I remember I think Kylie was Christina Aguilera one year from like the Dirty music video, and it was perfect. I was like, holy shit. It's kind of amazing, some of the things that they recreate. And I think like they recreated Cher, like Kim recreated like Cher's outfit one year, and that was really, really, really cool too. And I feel like they do like, they go as other celebrities a lot. I'm trying to think. I really like when people go like as like nostalgic like cartoon characters, like kids characters, which we see all the time, obviously. But I live for a good cosplay, so that's generally like what I'm interested in is people who cosplay other things. That makes sense.
Those are fun to watch. I think those are. Yeah.
That's what I did for Halloween. I dressed as Reggie Rocket, and that was like everything.
She was so excited. I remember like we were leaving to go to the party, and she was dressed in her costume, and we were in the hallway. And she was like, Emily, I don't have a photo, and I know like I don't want someone to like spill on me and like my outfit's ruined. Can you just like take a photo of me? And then she was like trying to figure out how to pose like Reggie. It was so funny. It was so much fun.
Oh, and I was so angry because we were at work, and I'm like, all these kids are like, oh, I'm dressing as an angel, I'm dressing as a devil, I'm just wearing cat ears, you know, all those, and they were like, what are you? And I was like, I'm gonna be Reggie Rocket. Isn't that cool? And they're like, who's Reggie Rocket? And I was like, oh, go yourself. I love Halloween, and even this year, like, I don't really think like Halloween's gonna be full force. So like, again, not dressing up again, but I already have multiple plans for Halloween costumes for the next year. Because I'm going to wear multiple because I missed out on a few
Watch out,
years
people. Milan circa 2022 is going to kick your ass in Halloween costumes.
Yeah, they're more going to be cosplays, but it's the same thing. Well, I mean, that's kind of it for this episode. It's a short episode. Next week's episode, I feel like is a little longer, but also not terribly long, right?
Is it? I don't know.
Pretty simple. But yeah, gotta keep some episodes short and sweet. So thank you for listening and watching this podcast. Please follow, like, and subscribe on every single platform, whether that be Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, every streaming platform available. Leave us 5 stars if you feel so inclined. Comment below anything that you want to contribute to the conversation we had today.
Your favorite costume. And how old do you think kids should be when they trick-or-treat?
Yeah. Do you feel sad for Emily?
No, you don't feel sad for me. I still had a great childhood. I want to make that clear. My dad watches these. Like, I still had a good childhood. It just was different than everybody else's. I'm good. I promise. Yeah. And I get to celebrate now.
I did throw her first real birthday party in college, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. She did. She threw me my first birthday party.
Okay. Anyways,
moving on. Emily
leave a comment if you feel sad for Emily.
No. And we'll see you next week.
Leave a comment if you don't feel bad for her at all, and she can go suck it. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Bye.